Yeah.
In year one under Neal Brown, West Virginia missed a bowl game for the first time since 2013. But can he get them back to the postseason in year two in Morgantown? Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, the best kept secret in all of college football. Today bringing you our 2020 West Virginia Mountaineers college football predictions. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. And also make sure to check out everything down in the description, where you can visit our new website, thegridironexpert.com, and also follow us on social media over on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So Neal Brown made the jump last year from Troy in the Sun Belt to West Virginia in the Big 12, a West Virginia program that many consider to be the most difficult place to win within the Big 12 conference. And I think that Brown exceeded expectations in 2019. The Mountaineers had lost so much from a very talented squad in 2018 that I don't think many had high expectations. But Neal Brown got them to within one win from bowl eligibility, going just 5-7 with 2 losses by 1 possession, a 3-point loss to Baylor, and a 7-point loss to Oklahoma State. I think that's pretty dang impressive. Now going into year two, Neal Brown's squad has an opportunity to get back to the postseason. The talent is there. They have a whole nother year of experience under their belt, but the schedule certainly will not be doing them any favors. We take a look at their roster here. 6 returning starters on both sides of the ball, but the offense is the side of the ball that has the most questions. West Virginia only averaged 20.6 points per game last year. That was good for 119th in the country, 119th in total offense last year. It's not good, guys. Not good at all. You are 11 spots away from being the worst offense in the country, and you are a Power 5 program. But when you look at West Virginia here, the biggest question is also who's going to play quarterback. For a while there, it was Austin Kendall. But then for the final 3 games, they switched to Jarret Doege, the transfer from Bowling Green, and he won 2 of the final 3 games for the Mountaineers, road games I should add, at Kansas State and at TCU. Doege threw for a little over 800 yards, 7 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. And if I'm Neal Brown, I am riding him as long as I can. He had the hot hand, and he was winning games for West Virginia, something that Kendall was unable to do. Luckily for Doege, he will have plenty of wide receivers to win some games and plenty of wide receivers to utilize his talent. He's got their leading receiver in Sam Jones coming back. Over 600 yards last year, but just 2 touchdowns. You've got TJ Simmons, over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. So you've got dual wide receivers there to go along with a solid, capable quarterback in Doege. It's the run game that's going to be the key. You can't solely pass in the Big 12, guys. It's a very pass-happy league, but you got to have a little bit of a run game to complement it, and West Virginia only averaged 73.3 rushing yards per game. That was good for 128th in the country. So the offensive line, which only returns 2 starters, and the running game, which to me will really dictate how well this West Virginia team does as a whole, how well they do on offense, and if those numbers can drastically improve. The defense, guys, that was kind of the strength last year. I think it's going to be the strength this year. You've got Darius and Dante Stills, the brothers, up front on the defensive line. Each had 7 sacks last year. So that's huge already. You've got Josh Chandler, the number 2 tackler on the team from last year. He's back at linebacker. And then you've got Sean Mahone at safety, the number 1 tackler from 2019. So West Virginia has some playmakers at each position group, defensive line, linebackers, and in the secondary. And to me, that's going to really, again, be the difference maker in some of these games. Can they bail out the offense when they struggle? We take a look at their schedule here, guys. We said it was not too favorable. And again, at the time of this video, when we were filming this video, the only conferences that have canceled non-conference games are the Big 10 and the Pac-12. And for West Virginia here, they do have a game against a Big 10 opponent in Maryland. We won't touch much on that. We know it's not going to be played. We've got an X by it. But if it were going to be played, we were projecting West Virginia to win that game. And that win will be reflected in our final win total at the bottom here. But they kick off the season in Atlanta against Florida State. Hopefully a game between an ACC team and a Big 12 team that can be played down in Atlanta. You look at Florida State, they're dealing with a brand new head coach in Mike Norvell. And they're dealing with a lot of the same questions that West Virginia is dealing with. Who's going to be their quarterback? Chubba Purdy? James Blackman? Who knows? Will their offensive line improve? Florida State's was horrendous last year. And then their defense wasn't all that high, but was probably the strength for Florida State last year. They returned 10 starters. So two teams that, to my eyes, are very, very similar, but one team to me does have the edge across the board, and that is going to be Florida State. I think they bring in Norvell here, a brilliant offensive mind, did so well at Memphis. I think he has a little bit more talent to work with on that side of the ball than West Virginia right now. If Florida State's offensive line is not up to par, you could expect the Stills brothers to kind of wreak havoc in the backfield, but I think they have just enough to pull off a close win in Atlanta. West Virginia starts 0-1. We have them improving to 2-1 if, in fact, you do count this Maryland game, and then they kick off Big 12 conference play with Kansas State at home. This is an intriguing matchup here, guys, because West Virginia went on the road to a good Kansas State team last year, an 8-win Kansas State team, and defeated the Wildcats 24-20. 24-20 in Manhattan last year. Now Kansas State loses a lot from that squad. The only guy coming back offensively, really, is their quarterback Skylar Thompson, which is huge. It's great to have a veteran QB. Kansas State's still going to be a bowl team this year. But their offense, which really wasn't all that great last year, is going to take a step back. There's not much of a room to take a step back in. They were like 101st in the country. And then you've got their defense, which returned 7 starters, which is great, but you can't help but wonder if Doege is on fire. If Doege has a hot hand a few games into the season, can he wreak havoc against this Kansas State secondary? And we're saying yes. If West Virginia could go on the road to Manhattan last year and beat a Kansas State team that was better last year than they're going to be this year, West Virginia can certainly beat them at home this year with a better Mountaineers squad. So West Virginia and Neal Brown, they get a huge season-opening win in Big 12 conference play against Chris Kleiman and his Wildcats. They then travel on the road to Texas Tech on October 3rd. And this is a Texas Tech team, guys, that the Mountaineers lost to by 21 last year. They lost 38-17. And Texas Tech is kind of an anomaly in the Big 12 this year because you don't know what you're going to get out of Mount Well's squad. Last year, high expectations kind of, especially with Alan Bowman. Then Alan Bowman goes down with yet another injury and Jet Duffy bailed him out. Texas Tech had the 11th ranked offense in the country, the 7th ranked passing attack in the country, yet only went 4-8. That's how bad their defense was, guys. The offense, fantastic. The defense, one of the worst in the country. So for Texas Tech, their keys are, yes, improve defensively, but can Alan Bowman stay healthy? Now I look at this here, guys. West Virginia struggled against the pass last year. They got torched by Texas Tech last year. The game is in Lubbock. I'm banking on Bowman being healthy, and I am banking on Texas Tech's defense taking a slight step forward. This is a Red Raiders team that's going to flirt with bowl eligibility this year, and for one of those wins to get there, it's going to come against West Virginia. So the Mountaineers take a road loss to an improving Texas Tech squad. They then return home to take on TCU, one of those road games that we mentioned that Jarret Doege led the Mountaineers to victory in. They defeated TCU 20-17 in the season finale, which ultimately kept TCU out of the postseason. Sent TCU down to 5-7 instead of 6-6. You look at TCU this year, kind of like Texas Tech, you don't know what you're going to get out of them because they've got a dangerous dual threat quarterback in Max Duggan. They got a great running back recruit in Zach Evans. They might have a great linebacker transfer in Marcel Brooks if he is eligible. This is a defense that was a top 30 unit last year. This is a TCU team that had 6 losses by 1 possession last year. So a 5-win team very well could have been a 8, 9, maybe even 10-win team in 2019. But I do look at TCU yet again, and I do look at their offense, and I say outside of Duggan, they have nobody. Outside of Duggan, they have nobody. So if he struggles, or if Neal Brown and West Virginia come up with a solid game plan to take him away, I think TCU will struggle mightily across the board. And kind of using the same logic here we used with Kansas State, if West Virginia can go on the road and beat TCU last year, why can't they beat TCU at home this year with an even better team than they had last year? I think that's exactly what happens. They defeat the Horned Frogs in Morgantown A TCU team that just really hasn't been typical of a Gary Patterson-led team in a very, very long time. They have not won 8 games in 3 of the past 4 seasons. West Virginia then travels to Texas. We mark that down as a loss here. They held their own against the Longhorns in 2019. I'll give them credit. They lost 42-31 to Tom Herman and his squad in Morgantown. I think that was also a game that was a little bit closer than the score really indicates. But this is a Texas team that should improve. This is a Texas team that needs to rack up wins against, I would say, inferior opponents. We know Texas plays Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, LSU even. But this is a winnable game for the Longhorns at home against a West Virginia squad that they need to really take care of business against and just annihilate. And I think that's exactly what happens. This Texas team is anywhere from 8 wins to a 10-win team. And this is I think, a make-or-break year for Tom Herman in Austin. So West Virginia loses this game. They've kind of alternated wins. Win, loss, win, loss. The pattern is going to continue. We give them a win against Kansas. A Kansas team, they survived 29-24 last year on the road in Lawrence. And that game took place earlier in the season than it will this year. And I look at Kansas, guys, a lot of people are so high on them. A lot of people love Les Miles. And don't get it wrong. I love Les Miles. I am a huge fan of Les Miles. I love what he's doing, and I want to see him succeed at Kansas. The thing is, the talent's just not there yet. If Carter Stanley was still around to throw the ball in Brent Dearman's offense, I might say Kansas could contend for a bowl game this year. But they're dealing with new quarterback questions. They're dealing with a lot of questions defensively. The only thing Kansas has going for them is Puka Williams. And I think Neal Brown and the Mountaineers shut that down real quick. And I don't think Kansas has the capability to win this game through the air. So they win against Kansas at home. It's not nearly as close as it was last year. And after that, they now have 5 wins, if in fact you do count the Maryland game, which we are for all intents and purposes. They get their bye week, though, guys, and the month of November is brutal for West Virginia. The month of November, they are facing 4 of the top 5 teams within the Big 12. Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Iowa State, 2 of which are coming on the road. After the bye week, we're going to give them a loss to Oklahoma here. I think we can all agree West Virginia is not to the point yet of taking down the Sooners. Yes, they lost to them 52-14 last year. Yes, we know that Oklahoma loses Jalen Hurts and they're dealing with a new quarterback, but I think Spencer Rattler is the real deal. And I think Alex Grinch is the real deal as defensive coordinator. Oklahoma's got a very experienced defense coming back here, enough that if they have a slight drop-off offensively, the defense can bail them out a little bit. So they fall to Oklahoma. I think they fall to Oklahoma State, even though West Virginia only fell to the Cowboys by 7 last year, 20-13, a game that did come down to those final seconds. This is a much improved Oklahoma State team. This should be a healthy Oklahoma State team. Keep in mind, last year, they lost their star wide receiver in Tylan Wallace. They lost their star quarterback in Spencer Sanders. Now he's back as a dual-threat QB. Wallace is back as one of the best receivers in the Big 12. And, of course, Chuba Hubbard, the 2,000-yard rusher, shot everybody by coming back to Stillwater. And I think they put up a big day against this West Virginia defense at home. So back-to-back losses here. We're going to make it 3rd and 4th straight losses against Baylor and Iowa State. I know many could see West Virginia pulling off this win against Baylor, and maybe they do. But I think Baylor is still in the top half of the Big 12 this season. I know Matt Rule is gone. I know Dave Aranda steps in. I know they lost so much defensively. But Baylor certainly, to me, owns the offensive edge. They own the edge with Charlie Brewer. They own the edge with John Lovett and Tristan Ebner at running back. They own the edge offensive line-wise. They own the edge maybe not wide receiver-wise, but at least quarterback-wise they certainly do. And while West Virginia may own that defensive edge and have that home field advantage edge, they're going up against one of the best defensive minds in the game now as the head coach in Waco. And I do think that Dave Aranda, as the season continues to progress, his defense continues to progress as well. Baylor comes on the road and gets a win. Iowa State and Ames get to win over the Mountaineers. They defeated them 38-14 last year. And this Iowa State team, guys, is one of the best we've seen in recent memory, maybe in Iowa State's history. Brock Purdy, 9 back on defense, Breece Hall, Charlie Kohler. This Iowa State team is legit. They are legitimate Big 12 title contenders, and I just don't see West Virginia having nearly enough to go in to one of the toughest places to play within the Big 12, whether there are fans there or not. So, It was a great start. They start off 3-1, 3-2. They're 4-2 going into October 17th, but they fall with their 4 straight games here at the end. They end the season on a 4-game losing streak. I know that's not what Mountaineer faithful want to hear, but again, if they want to have any chance of reaching the postseason this year, it's got to come in this first little half of the schedule. So maybe they're able to take care of Florida State. Maybe they're able to snag a win on the road at Texas Tech. Maybe you think they upset Baylor. But right now, I think Neal Brown's squad is still just a little ways away. They're heading in the right direction, but still not quite there yet. And with that Maryland game included, we have West Virginia going 5-7 for the second year in a row. If you want to take that Maryland win away, we have them going 4-7. Regardless, West Virginia will miss out on a bowl game for the second year in a row. But trust me, they're going to be back in the postseason next year. I love what Neal Brown is doing. I think they're much more competitive in a lot of these games. The offense does take a step forward, and West Virginia could surprise some people in the very near future. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. Also, make sure to check out everything down in the description below, where you can visit our new website, thegridironexpert.com. And also follow us on social media over on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. And we will see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.